Welcome back to Eliances Heroes, where heroes in business align. To be part of our super community and find out more about Eliances, visit www.Eliances.com.
That's right. Welcome back to the show. By the way, thank you for the feedback that I continue to have when I had on guest Dottie Pepper from the CBS Sports, former LPGA pro who won 2 major golf championships. Well, I'm so excited today. First of all, I got to share a little secret with you. I have been wanting to have our next guest on the show for probably the past 4 years when we started this whole show and have done thousands of interviews. And that's how long it's taken to finally have him on the show. And are you ready for this? We have with us the founder of GoDaddy, serial entrepreneur, philanthropist, U.S. Marine, the one and only Bob Parsons. And you can reach him at bobparsons.com. Welcome to the show, Bob. It's an honor to have you on.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here, David. So thank you so much. Appreciate the intro.
So there's so much to talk about. We've got a limited time. So I first want to just jump into it. GoDaddy. How in the world did you come up with that everybody knows?
Well, it was just, like the blind squirrel finding an acorn. It was one of those things. I had sold my first business, Parsons Technology. Let's see here. I had 40,000 in it, sold it for 64 million. Then got divorced, not my idea, my wife's, then wife. And so that cut that in half. And so when I was my non-compete with Intuit was up, and their non-compete was I couldn't work. Well, I didn't think I'd have a problem with it, but I did. You know what I mean? And I'm always I'm a worker bee, ready to get to where the action is. So what happened was I figured, well, I'd take my like 36 million, and I would have a group of very smart people, and we try a number of things on the internet. And this is back in 96, and whatever worked, if something didn't work, we quit doing it. If something did work, that'd be what we did. Now, the only thing we got any traction out of was building websites. But the problem with building websites back then is you were limited to what you could actually do. You didn't have anything that would deliver the product without your involvement. In essence, you couldn't make money while you're sleeping. So what we did is we went to work to write a program that we called Website Complete, became Website Tonight. I don't know what GoDaddy calls it now, but where an individual could build their own website. And it got to be pretty good. And what we learned is that every website, of course, needs a domain name. We tried to sell domain names for other companies. That didn't work. So we decided to become a domain name registrar. It took us a year and about $1 million in fees. And after we got that done, we launched it. And that was about in the year 2000. And didn't work at first. I was ready to close the company down because I was broke. I used to measure the company, the way, I'm just a blue collar knucklehead from East Baltimore. So, I got a way to do everything, but it's not the typical way. So right. What I would do is I would measure it by how much cash I had left. So when I first started it, I'd say, well, I'm not going to worry about this company until I get down to 30 million. Bang, 30 million. And then it was 25. Then it was 20. And then it was 16. Then it was 14, 12, 10. Down to 6 million. And wow. I decided, didn't tell anybody, always keep my own counsel, that I'd shut it down while I had some cash. Well, I went to Hawaii by myself to decide how I'd pay the employees, how I'd sell the assets, how I'd pay creditors, and then what I'd do after that. And everything was moving along. But the more I was there, the more I felt like, man, I don't want to close this thing down. Don't want to do it.
Right.
And so the epiphany happened. Guy parking my car, happy guy throwing the keys up in the air. I mean, guy probably has nothing. He's parking cars. You know, he might be the richest guy in the world, but I doubt it.
Right.
And so when he's doing that, I'm thinking, now this guy has nothing, and he is happy as a lark. I've got 6 million, and I'm miserable. What's wrong with his picture? Right. And it was at that time I decided to go back, strap myself to the mast, and if the company didn't succeed and the ship sunk, I'd go down with it.
Right.
So I went back, didn't do a thing different, never told anybody what I was thinking, but I almost did. And a few months later, the .com crash happened.
Right.
And we were one of the few companies that were paying our bills. And so, I mean, the severity of this, every week somebody we were doing business with just vanished. I mean, we would get our checks returned to us, and it was the craziest thing. So this, as this went on, and we had our low prices on domain names and our advertising where we couldn't buy it before, I had people standing in line to give it to me. And so the company then started to take off. And then in October of that year, we became cash flow positive, never missed a month since, wound up making $3 billion on the deal.
Incredible.
Yes, that's the story.
Now, the thing is, Bob, not only being the founder of GoDaddy, you own one of the country's largest Harley Davidson dealerships, which is right by me. And you're CEO, founder of YAM Worldwide. You also do everything from golf, real estate, finance, marketing, innovation, philanthropy, golf. I mean, how do you keep track of it all? One is too many to keep track of. You've got multiple enterprises.
Oh, brother, it's a good memory. I don't forget a thing. Oh, there you go.
Well, and, good.
I mean, I am and I have a team of really great people. So, we have like 7 companies make up our power sports brand. It might be 8 now. That's run by a very good individual named Gina Mara. Our real estate, we own probably $1 billion in shopping centers in the Valley, Arizona Valley, the Sun. And I got a guy named Dan Dahl. He runs that. He's excellent. And I mean, and that's the way it goes. I mean, really good people. Now, what I do, I spend my time where I call where the war is being fought. And that's where we have the biggest opportunities. And right now it's with our golf company. And I'm pretty excited about the way things are shaping up with that thing. So off we go.
Fantastic. So does this make you a better golf player by owning a golf company, a better motorcycle rider by owning a motorcycle company?
Well, you would think that. But let's talk. Riding motorcycles like riding a bike. When if you're using your head, you're always okay. And if you especially get on something different, you take a few laps around the track to get used to it, then you're good to go. With golf,
right.
I do my best, David.
Excellent. Well, we're going to talk about your book here in a minute because you're listening to me, David Cogan, host of the Eliances Heroes Show. Make sure that you go to Eliances.com. That's Eliances.com. As you know, it's the only place where entrepreneurs align. We have with us again, Bob Parsons, GoDaddy founder, serial entrepreneur, philanthropist, a U.S. Marine. And again, we're going to talk about his book, Fire in the Hole, the untold story of traumatic life and explosive success. So, Bob, what was the whole thing of coming out with the book? Why?
Well, I've had over the years, I've had people tell me time and again, you need to write a book. You've had so many incredible things happen to you. Like for example, when I grew up, I didn't get a lot of attention from anybody. And so I even had to tie my shoes, teach myself how to tie my shoes. And, I started with little knots and so forth. And then over time, I finally figured out, a way to do it, which is unlike any other way you'll see on the planet, but it works for me. And I've got 2 bows and all that sort of stuff. But, I started with nothing, less than nothing. And, was able to make $3 billion. I was terrible in school, terrible. I failed the 5th grade. I was going to fail. I wasn't going to graduate high school, but I joined the Marine Corps during the Vietnam War with 2 buddies of mine back in 1968. We took and went to boot camp, came back. One of my buddies was stabbed to death. It's in East Baltimore. He never even made Vietnam. My other buddy, he lost both his legs and one of his arms when he was in the thick of combat, tried to throw a hand grenade back that was thrown at him, and it didn't get the job done. I was wounded. I lasted a month, and I mean it was combat was pretty thick then.
Sure.
And so anyhow, the book talks about all my my significant experiences over there, coming home with PTSD. How PTSD was a double-edged sword. It helped me focus.
Yeah.
And I liked working by myself because I just didn't feel like I wanted to be, much around groups of people. And the other thing is I had a flash temper, depression,
Right.
crying when nobody's around. Man, it was tough. And so anyhow, I overcome that and talk about how I did that. And the deal is, man, if I can make it, David, man, anybody ought to be able to make it. And this book, Fire in the Hole, tells you exactly how I did it.
Yeah, let's and I want to ask you a question about that too. Is in regards to worry. Everybody worries about something, and you mentioned something in your book about worry. I mean, heck, I worry that I'm going to make sure that I do the best possible job interviewing you. Right? People just naturally worry. How do you talk about what you mentioned in your book about worry, and how does someone kind of overcome that, especially with you? And thank you again for serving our country.
Well, my pleasure. Worry to me is a beast. It accomplishes nothing. It's debilitating. It usually you worry about stuff and like a week or a day or a month from the time you were sweating it turns out to be not a problem at all. And so one of my gifts is I just don't worry. I do the best I can about whatever I'm dealing with, and then off I go. And I think you can teach yourself not to worry, but you got to work on it. Like anything, it's something that's learned. I learned it when I was a kid, and my parents would go through all sorts of crazy ass stuff. And for example, I failed the 5th grade.
Wow.
But the nun gave 3 guys, told 3 guys, didn't give us report cards. And and so she says to us, she goes, you 3, you wait for me, and I'm going to take the rest of the club out, the rest of the class out, who's all holding their report cards like their Academy Awards. And, and then I'll be back to deal with you. So she marches them out. Me, I don't wait around. I took off because I wanted a nun-free summer is what I really wanted. And so I took off and I ran all the way around the whole complex where the nun goes and passes the convent and lets the line go down. And then it goes across the street and meets the parents, right? Well, my nun, Sister Brenda, I knew she was a very lazy nun. So she would never walk all the way down there with the class. So I was there against the wall. Sure enough, she didn't. She broke off and went back to crucify the unholy threesome, which was a twosome now. So I go across the street. My father's holding my brother's a report card. And he asked me, he goes, "Where's your report card, Robert?" And I said, "Dad's sister didn't give me one." And really, she hadn't.
Wow.
And then he said, "Well, why not?" And then this is when I fished a ridiculous lie out. I said, "Well, this year, if you passed, you didn't get a report card."
Oh,
and he goes, "Let me get this straight. If you pass, you didn't get a report card." I goes, "No, Dad, you don't." He looks at me like a dog that heard a strange noise, because he's holding my brother's report card. So he was a gambler. So he was holding a racing form. He had a cigarette. He flicked the cigarette in the street. He goes, "All right, whatever, get in the car." So I went and got in the car. And then same thing with my mother. My mother's going, "I never heard of such a thing." So I said, "Mom, call sister." And she goes, "I'm going to call that night." I said, "Well, if you feel better, you should." Well, I knew she'd never call her. So I spent all summer, right, sweating about failing the 5th grade and my parents, finding out. And I knew I was on death row. So come the first day of school, and I mean, I didn't tell anybody. I knew if I told like one of my buddies, it'd be all over the place.
It'd get out. Yeah, sure.
Right?
Sure.
Yeah, one of those, well, you can't tell anybody. Well,
right. Yeah.
And before then, everybody's got it. So I taken get in line with the 6th graders. I got the 2 guys that were with me when I failed. They're in the 5th grade line waving to me to come over. I'm going, no, stay away from me.
Right.
So anyhow, so the classes all went in, and they go order with this youngest class first, like kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, then 6th grade. And I mean, I am flying by the seat of my pants. So I march in with them. And the sister that year was Sister St. Thomas. Well, she pulled me out of line and she held me against the wall. And I mean, her nose was an inch from mine. She said, "Sister Brenda told me what you did. She told me you failed and you didn't wait for her to come back."
Oh, wow.
Then she says, "She didn't know what to do.
Oh.
So she passed you." And I went, "Whoa." And she said, "If you give me any trouble this year, you're going right back to the 5th grade." I go, "I won't, sister."
Wow.
And well, I did a better job. I didn't do that much of a better job, but I did a better job. Wow. And I remember when I gave my mother the report card, she's looking at it and she goes, "Oh, this is nothing to be proud of." But at least you didn't fail. And I like it when you get a report card. I go, "So do I, Mom."
Right. That's a good thing.
There you go.
Right. Wonderful. All right. We've got time for one more question here, and I want to do some snooping, Bob. We're going to do some snooping. So we're in your office right now. You've got a number of items behind you. What's something that you treasure the most, or something that you would take from your office if you needed to? What would that be?
Something here?
Yep.
Let me take a look.
You've got a couple statues in there. I see a number of books, a silver item. Can't wait. A number of books. Yep. Some smaller statues. Looks like some clear metal or glass sculpture. Again, audience, we've got a number of items that are in his office.
But I like the big Marine Corps book.
The Marine Corps book?
Yeah.
Wow.
Marine Corps Heritage Foundation.
And why is that? Why would you pick that?
Well, because everything else is interesting to me, but I have a reverence for the Marine Corps that is pretty solid. One thing I didn't tell you, David, is everything I've ever accomplished I owe to the Marine Corps. Mm-hmm. Because they turned me, from an aimless kid, they turned me completely around, and I feel as though I owe them.
Wonderful. Oh, fantastic.
You know, right along those lines, the Semper Fi Fund also goes by the name of the fund. I'm having a little celebration this May because my wife and I have over the years have reached the $100 million mark of donating to them.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. Thank you. This has just been absolutely phenomenal. And thank you again, Bob Parsons, GoDaddy founder, serial entrepreneur, philanthropist, U.S. Marine. Make sure you get his book, Fire in the Hole, The Untold Story of His Dramatic Life and Explosive Success. You can go to bobparsons.com. This has been David Cogan with the Eliances Heroes Show.
Hey, David, one last thing.
Yeah.
I'll jump in here. You know, in this book, Fire in the Hole, you know, from what I told you, it sounds like a very serious book. And, you know, in some parts it is also laugh out loud funny.
Fantastic.
So, I mean, I tell how the cow ate the cabbage and it's big baby.
I love it. Excellent.